China is clearly fueling a war. The question is, can they afford to?
During the 2-hour-long phone call, the Chinese President Xi Jinping warned Joe Biden against playing with fire over Taiwan.
Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to handle the conflict by peaceful means. In today's hyper-connected global economy, the politics of every nation has a direct impact on every other nation, be it economically or culturally. The geopolitical tensions between China and Taiwan have escalated recently after Nancy Pelosi paid an official visit to Taiwan on behalf of US House of Representatives with the intention of strengthening Taiwanese democratic front. But why did this visit cause China to be agitated, and how can the political turmoil between the China and Taiwan can cause serious disruptions on the global economy? And more importantly, where does India stand on this whole scenario? Can India be benefited from this conflict? Let's find out the answers to these questions. Hello everyone, I am Shalini and you are watching Voice Apart. To understand this dispute between China and Taiwan, let us roll back in the time and analyze Taiwan. Taiwan, officially the Republic of China, which is known as ROC, is a small island nation located in East Asia, at the junction of the East and South China Seas in the northwestern Pacific Ocean, with the People's Republic of China, which is known as PRC, to the northwest, Japan to the northeast, and the Philippines to the south. In 17th century, Taiwan was under the control of Dutch. Then it was occupied by Qing dynasty. After that, the Japanese took control of the island until the end of Second World War, which happened in 1945. As you all can see, Taiwan has had many different rulers in the past, but now it is a democratic country. So how come China claims Taiwan to be the part of mainland China? If we briefly look at the history, we come to know that the Sino-Japanese War ended and the Taiwan was bought under the Japanese Empire. And it remained in colony of Japan for about 50 years from 1895 to 1945, named Formosa. But after the Second World War ended in 1945, the Imperial Japanese regime fell. Taiwan then decided to join hands with its neighbor China. But at that time, China was not so politically stable and it was amidst the Civil War. Under the leadership of Mao, the Communist Party grew strong. There were two main political groups involved, the Nationalists with their party Kuomintang and the Communists under the party banner of Chinese Communist Party, which is known as CCP. From 1928 till 1948, the national flag of China was that which Taiwan uses now. In the year 1949, civil war progressed and the Nationalist Party was forced to the corner and they flee to Taiwan. This civil war was also the reason why US decided to suspend its diplomatic ties with People's Republic of China for decades to come, which was the newly formed government of mainland China. Now in Taiwan, the nationalists claim that they are the ruling government of China and Taiwan must be operated under them. They ruled over Taiwan for many years. The Republic of China, which is in Taiwan, and People's Republic of China in mainland China has never signed any peace treaty or any agreement. So technically, both of them are still at war. However, China refers to those years and claims that historically, Taiwan was under Chinese rule and is its territory. On the other hand, Taiwan claimed to be independently governed after the end of Chinese Civil War. So, is Taiwan independent? Well, there are only 15 countries in the world that recognizes Taiwan to be an independent country. Interestingly, none of those 15 countries include major countries like US, India, Australia, etc. Rather, they are a bunch of very small nations. Taiwan is also not a part of United Nations, but is a modern democracy, whereas China is not. China is a communist nation. Since 1979, no US political representative has gone to Taiwan and no Taiwanese official has gone from Taiwan to US. So this is what makes Nancy Pelosi visit such a big event. China was open about how it does not want any interference in the political matter between itself and Taiwan, strongly suggesting that it is the internal issue. China also threatened US about the diplomatic visit to Taiwan, stating that it will not be appreciated whatsoever and will be taken in bad faith. This brings us to the question, why China does not want Taiwan to mingle with US on diplomatic grounds? And is there any kind of benefit to China, or is US trying something here? To answer this, let us look at the importance of Taiwan both to China and on a global scale. The China-Taiwan relations cannot be judged on the economic grounds. It is much more complex than that. For China, Taiwan is the West Pacific region. The location could be of serious strategic benefits to China, both in terms of politics and in terms of trade. For China to conduct its exporting activities efficiently via the Pacific, it has to enter the ocean and, more importantly, while simultaneously go through the number of countries like Japan, Philippines, Indonesia and Borneo, which are called the first island chain. So having Taiwan as a huge port could solve this issue in a jiff. Also, if China gains control over Taiwanese island, it can create a strong military and naval base against other countries. Taiwan could act as a protector for China around that region. Moreover, China and Taiwan are strongly intertwined on economic front. Their economies are very interdependent. China is the biggest export partner for Taiwan, and Taiwan also has a strong trades with Hong Kong, which is a part of special administrative regions of China. But how come a conflict between China and a small island nation of Taiwan so important? It is so because Taiwan is not only important for China and its economy, but is a key in global trade and technology. It has that one thing for which US is ready to split ties with China completely, and several other countries are awaiting the end of this conflict. That thing is semiconductors in the form of computer chips. These chips are used in our mobile phones to the satellites going on to the space. It is one of the major components of medical equipment and is integral to any electronic gadget. In terms of technology, Taiwan dominates the global production of such computer chips as 65%, followed by South Korea, who is mere at 18% compared to Taiwan. China is heavily dependent on these semiconductor chips, and to discuss this in detail, we'll get back to this later in this video. So let us first look at the importance of Taiwan on global market. The surging inflation is creating a recession scares globally and is paving the way for slowdown in the world trade and commerce, which means difficulties for many countries. The visit by Nancy Pelosi holds great significance as it means that the US recognizes Taiwan as the separate entity than mainland China. This could fuel the conflict between China and Taiwan with US in between the add pressure on the global markets as well. Decoupling amongst the world's largest economies can drastically affect the markets across the world. To understand this further, let me explain the world reliance on Taiwanese semiconductors. Taiwan is the epicenter for digital advancement. We can go as far as to say that Taiwan is basically runs the world's supply in the most important digital component we find in our machines, cars, medical gadgets, etc. Taiwan exports about 42.2 billion worth of chips to China, 9.7 billion to South Korea, 9.9 billion to Japan, 34.3 billion to Hong Kong, 19.9 billion to Singapore, and about 2.2 billion to USA. All of these countries are leading manufacturer of computer gadgets and other electronic devices. As I mentioned earlier, Taiwan is crucial for tech functioning, and there is already a shortage of these chips in automobile industry and IT industries due to this pandemic, which is likely to last till 2023. Life-saving medical appliances are at risk, and previously US warned the world that losing access to Taiwanese chips could break the world economy. It has caused US to put global sanctions over China, which could ultimately destroy the global and the US economy at worst. So what can China do that US fears so much? China owns and is the major holder of US Treasury bond, which worth more than 1.095 trillion of the total 28 trillion US national debt. If it sells aggressively, it could directly affect the long-term borrowing interest rates, and they could crumble under pressure. Federal Reserve is already selling a portion, which will lead to increased in long-term rates, and there will be chaos in the global market as hiked interest rate plus slowdown economy is a disaster recipe. But can India be benefited from all of this? And what does this conflict mean for India? The Indian relations with Taiwan strengthened after the border disputes with China. India imports machinery, electrical equipment, plastic, machine tools, organic chemicals, and those semiconductors as well. On the other hand, India provides material fuel, oil seeds, maize, iron and steels to Taiwan. Taiwanese investment has also been on a rise. Companies like Quantacom, Foxconn Tech, Pegatron have set up their respective plants in India. Taiwan considers India to be the prime location because of the existing trade relations and getting away from excessive Chinese surveillance. So we can say if China gains Taiwan, then India would suffer as a bilateral relations would end. However, India is ready to brace the change and appears as the future of manufacturing and investment in recent years. During COVID-19 pandemic, India announced a semiconductor mission to boost smart manufacturing and enhance economic space. The technological ecosystem is on the way to massive development due to 76,000 crores plan for semiconductor and display manufacturing. China appeared as boss in 1990s, providing as a hub for manufacturing at astonishingly low cost for global economies across the world, including US and EU. It became the world's manufacturing superpower. It quickly gained the supply chain control as well. But now, after the pandemic and geopolitical problems, countries around the world are not liking this over-dependence over China. India, due to its personal relations with China, has banned several applications and stopped importing Chinese toys while simultaneously lowered the imports of other goods from China as well. The zero-COVID policy, high transportation costs, supply chain disruptions and increasing costs are the main reasons why countries are turning their hands against China. The introduction of China Plus One strategy came up. China Plus One, also known as simply Plus One, is the business strategy to avoid investing only in China and diversify the business into other countries as well. For the last 20 years, Western companies have invested in China, drawn by their low production cost and economic domestic consumer markets. Developing from the over-concentration of business interest in China, it may be done for the reasons of cost, safety and long-term stability. It has also been described as the macro-level phenomena. Going ahead in the future, India has to understand what did China do effectively and more importantly correctly to sustain such a control over manufacturing. Now also the countries have not ended their ties with China completely and are still dependent. But we are still to see the Chinese response on all of this. India has a great opportunity to bounce on, but is India really ready? Can India develop its manufacturing sector and its capabilities to meet the global standards? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much.